begin by allowing John to introduce himself in a bit more detail, because he's the real expert here.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but okay.
Go on, you are.
So I'm John Millen, and I've been working for Walkers Britain since the mid-1990s. So I've been on quite a lot of their tours and stuff, and started doing guided trips in the Dolomites in the early 2000s. And more recently, more to do with self-guided, looking at new trails and devising new walks, etc., and variations of old walks and testing trails out.
Yeah, and you know the Dolomites very well, being a guide, but also you were there twice, I think, last year, John.
Yes, so doing a trip called the Chestnut Trail, and also back on our traditional sort of 5-day and 8-day tours as well.
Yeah, so you've got very recent knowledge as well as historical knowledge of the area. And a little bit more about myself. So I'm Fiona. I work alongside John and the team here. My job is to take care of all the tours that we organise, in terms of making sure that we've got a really nice range of trips for you to choose from, and creating new tours. I've been a very lucky girl. I've walked all over the world, including many times in the Alps. Dolomites less familiar to me. So today we are going to be asking John the questions, and we're going to start with the first question, which is, what makes the Dolomites special for hikers?
Yes, so people love the Dolomites because they're not too high. They're only going up to about 3,300 meters. So most people don't have altitude sickness or anything like that. They're beautiful cathedral type spires of rock, bright limestone, reflects all colours from the sun, and just a gorgeous area. Pretty villages and churches, and nice bits of forest with vineyards and kind of apple orchards and fruit and stuff like that.
Sounds like a brilliant mix. Yeah. Can we start with, why are they called the Dolomites?
Okay, so the Dolomites basically were named after a man called Dolomieu, who was a French geologist who, on a trip from between Paris and Rome with his donkey, passed through the Asarco Valley, which is near the Chestnut Trail, and he picked up some of these very bright, almost fluorescent rocks. And we went back to Paris, did some research on them, and found out that they were made of calcium magnesium carbonate rather than just calcium carbonate as in limestone. So quite an unusual kind of rock.
Which is why they create different colours when the light hits, because you get the white, reflective qualities of the magnesium.
So sometimes it looks like they have snow on them when they don't.
Yeah.
They're bright. So they weren't actually called the Dolomites, they were called the Venetian Alps until Victorian times, when a couple of British geologists published a book called The Dolomites.
Right, and that's why we. But they have other names as well. So the Italians call the area the Alto Adige,
and the Germans, the Austro-Germans, called it the Südtirol.
The South Tyrol, because this area has kind of moved around historically, and you can see here that reflection of the light on that magnesium rock. Very, very beautiful, and and these dramatic rocky spires that you get in some parts of the Alps, but not like you get them here. So it's quite unique. It's kind of alpine, but very, very different. It's a different area, different character, different rocks, although it shares some similar characters.
Yeah, so you don't get the snow and the glaciers as you do, well, at least in the summer. At least the only glaciers are on the Marmolada mountain, which are now shrinking quite a lot. So,
Did this geological area form?
I'm glad you asked me that question, Ben.
I know you love geology.
So back in the Triassic, about 230 million years ago, this area was under tropical seas, a bit like the Maldives, and you had these coral reef islands and stuff. And basically, after millions of years, the African plate pushed up the European plate into the Alps, and the Dolomites got pushed up as well. And then you had the glaciation subsequently. And the last ice age was about 12,000 years ago, and that cut down a lot of these valleys. So it separated the different blocks, more resistant blocks of limestone and dolomite from each other.
Wow, how interesting. I think, geologically it's interesting, but the area is a bit of a mix of cultures, and I think our next slide kind of gives a bit of a flavour of that, literally. So this area, as we talked about, and it'll be clearer when we look at a map, which we'll do shortly, it kind of sits on the border between Italy and Austria, and was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, as we've just explained. So it kind of has this mix of cultures and its own culture. So I can see here we've got pizzas, but we've got also other types of food and people in what looks like alpine valleys and then what looks like something else. Can you just tell us a bit more about the culture of the place?
Yeah, so it's very mixed culture. Mostly it's German culture, Austro-German culture, because it was under Austria for hundreds of years before the First World War. And then basically after this, with the settlement of the First World War, it became part of Italy. But being the Alto Adige South Tyrol, it maintained its own sort of German identity, a semi-autonomous area. There are also some local people called the Ladins, basically that culture goes back to the Celts, and who were beaten up by the Romans. And the Ladino language is a mixture of old Latin and with some Celtic elements.
And people still speak that.
And there's about 40,000 Ladinos left. Yeah.
And another interesting thing about this part of the world, because of this moving between the different countries and cultures and languages, the signs and the names of that, they're often twofold.
Yeah.
So, for example.
Yeah, so for example, Tre Cime for the three towers or three chimneys, and Dreizinnen, and Bolzano with Bolson, and Brissanon with Brixen.
Yeah, so it can be very confusing.
It can be confusing, and you have to be aware that quite a few words are in two languages. You get different. Some signs have them in one, some signs have them in both, sometimes have them in the other. So,
and if you look at maps, sometimes they're the German names and sometimes they're Italian names. So just to bear that in mind. But where are the Dolomites? Let's come to this now. So they are tucked up. The left-hand map shows you there up in that northeast corner of Italy. And as you can see, kind of abutting the border with Austria, and hence this movement in and out of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And the map on the right is a bit more of a kind of zoom in of the Dolomites. And you can see that Cortina is over on the eastern side and Bolzano is over on the western side, I think just off the map here. But could you tell us a little bit more about the area and the formation of the valleys? And
so you got you can see on the western side, you've got that big river system, that's Sarco, going down from Bresnon. That's where our tour called Chestnut Trail goes. And between that and the eastern side, where you can see Dorbiaco up in the north and more river systems, you have these big blocks, big massifs of Dolomite limestone, and each sort of massif is separated by valleys, and there's usually a village or a town in the valley. For example, like Corvara or Colfosco, or Cortina, for example. And that's how the geology and geography is formed. So it's a lot of communication is quite hard between the valleys. You've got very steep passes and then roads dropping down into the next valley.
So quite a difficult place to get around, unless you travel with us, in which case we've made it simple. And we're going to chat today specifically about 3 of the trips that we operate in this area. The first 2 are kind of similar. We'll look at those in a second. And the Chestnut Trail is slightly different. That's over on the western side. But let's look, I think, at our Walking in the Dolomites 8-day itinerary. So here's a little map showing it. Could you just break down, John, how this trip works?
Yes, okay. So you start off, the first night will be in Cortina, and then the first walk goes up to the high point of the whole trip, which is Laguzoi. There's an option to get to the summit if you take the cable car up, but most people probably walk up, and it's quite a long day, but a beautiful day. And then over to a place called San Cassian, beautiful sort of a limestone walking on different terrains and stuff. And then the next day we have a walk basically along a ridge, and lots of forest and good views across pastures into the valleys and back towards where you were, Laguzoi, the previous day. That takes you into Corvara and Colfosco. Colfosco, you have 2 nights, and so the next day there's you've got 2 different options for walking: a low-level and a high-level walk. Saskampak is a good viewpoint for the high-level walk, and then the next day you walk over to a village called Araba, There's 2 options that day, an easier and a harder walk. You can also take a cable car to reduce the harder walk ascent. Then you get a transfer the following morning back to Cortina, and you have, during that day, you can do you get back early enough really to do an option of 2 local walks. So one is straight out from Cortina, or you can take the local cable car, and then another one is to a local cascade where you take a local bus, only about 10 minutes to start the walk, and then you can walk directly back into Cortina via the old railway line to Dobbiaco. The next day, there's the highlight of the walk, is you take a bus out to do the walk into Tre Cime, and you do a kind of half moon around the Tre Cime, and end up at the Orenzo hut, where there's an included transfer back to Cortina for your last night.
So you get the Tre Cime as the finale.
As the finale. So hopefully you have nice weather, and you get the great views.
It's beautiful, whatever the weather. And the shorter trip, the 5-day trip that we call highlights, is essentially, it's the same area, slightly shorter. How is it different, John?
Yes, so obviously you're missing out the Tre Cime and the Cortina walks. You have the Leguzzi walk, and then you have to walk to San Cassian, and then walk to Cal Fosco. You don't have an extra night in Cal Fosco to do an extra walk. And then the next day you walk to Araba, and then you have a transfer out from Araba to Cortina. Now you don't have a night in Araba, you have the transfer directly to Cortina. Yeah.
So I guess this is a great option for people who are short on time. They still want to go hiking to the Dolomites. It's a good intro.
Good intro. Still quite hard walking. Your first day on that is quite a tough day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then the third option, the third tour we're going to talk about is the Chestnut Trail. Now this is quite different. This is a trip on the western side from Bolzano. Maybe you could tell us a little.
So this walk, it's a kind of beautiful walk, follows the Asarco Valley. We mentioned that earlier in the case of Dolomites picked up his Dolomite limestone, and it's from Bresson or Brixton, and it goes down to Bolzano or Bowls, and follows the side of the valley generally, with great views across to the western edge of the Dolomites, especially the Langhoffel group. And beautiful views. There are some steep ascents and descents. It's not an easy walk, but it's easier than easier walk.
It's easier, I think possibly, and we'll have a look at some pictures shortly, not always in like really extreme high mountain terrain. And I think, let's have a look at some pictures next. So where's this?
Yeah, so this is the easier walk, or the bad weather alternative. If you're walking from Colfosco, Corvara, down to Araba, so that's on the 8 and the 5.
Very, very pretty, I would say. Yeah. And then from the mountains to the valleys, that is a ghost.
So a bit of the old style, of course, was transhumance farming, but nowadays a lot of animals are kept in huts, and they still cut the hay and feed them during the winter.
But this looks very alpine to me.
Very alpine, yeah.
So it has that, despite being a distinct set of geology, it has that alpine feel.
Yeah, it's very alpine feel. Yeah.
And from the valleys back up into the mountains. So this is the high Dolomites, obviously, I would say. Yeah.
So this signpost is on the Alto Via route. That's a high level backpacking route generally, across north to south across the parts of Dolomites. There's several Alto Vias, but this is also on our route going via Leguzzi, and
quite dramatic,
and
quite exposed.
Yes, and I'd like to point out that the white stuff on the mountains is not snow. It is actually Dolomite.
It's the magnesium in the rock. You can see the trails here. I think that gives a really good idea of what the high mountain trails are like. Quite rocky underfoot. So important to have good boots.
Yeah, good boots and poles as well for especially for descents. You have quite some of the paths are quite awkward in places, and you might have to put hand to rock in a couple of places. But generally, they're quite
they're walkers'
paths.
Yeah, and I can see the signposts here. Are the trails well waymarked?
Not as well as Switzerland, but they do have not too bad. They do have waymarks.
And of course, we provide an app to help you navigate. From navigation to relaxation, we have got some nice pictures of some of the hotels that we use. I think the The 5-day and 8-day Dolomites trips use really nice accommodation. Those hotels in Cortina and Araba and Colfosco, very, very comfortable. I would say probably a higher grade than we
generally
we would generally use in the Alps.
Yeah, they're very cozy. They feel very alpine in many ways. Lots of wood, as you can see from those as well. And some have saunas, some have pools, but generally just very, very pleasant places to stay the night.
Family run often, welcoming.
Often, yeah.
And if you wanted different styles of rooms, so you can upgrade to a bigger room or one with a view if you would prefer. But generally, I think what you get for the money on these trips is fantastic value. Yeah. The food, I think we've got a picture there of the breakfast buffet, which looks very nice.
So you can see salads, specks, speck of ham and stuff, lots of cheese, of course, and pastries, usually cakes. Some hotels now have juices. You can they give you fruit you can just throw into the juicer and make your own juice. It's fantastic, yeah.
And typical lunch.
Yeah, so people generally would go into the village to get lunch from bakeries and supermarkets, or they would stop at one of the gas houses on the route, or in the mountain hotel.
So there's lots of different options.
Yeah, there's different options.
And what type of food might you be served in the evening?
Yeah, well, that depends. There's always pizzas. They're very ubiquitous.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. That's the cheapest way to eat. Lots of traditional restaurants do things like fritter soup with, which is like a clear soup with kind of crepes cut up into strips and put up.
Oh yes.
There's the knoffel or canoodle, which is like a dumpling which goes with a goulash kind of thing, often with like lamb meat or something like that. And then you have the mezzaluna, which is like it's like a ravioli pasta with which is in a half moon shape, and often filled with mushrooms and herbs and things.
That's delicious. And what about vegetarians?
There are vegetarian options, include lots of cheeses, of course, and mushrooms and salad. The salads are very extensive.
A great place to enjoy food. And I think we're going to look at some more practicalities now of traveling around the area. And we're going to look at finding your way, and we'll start by finding your way mechanically and perhaps have a little look at a cable car. So I think here we are. This is the gondola. Where is this gondola?
Yeah, so this goes up to Piz Bowie, and nothing to do with David Bowie, but this goes up from Colfosco. So you can use this gondola to reduce the amount of scent of the day, almost put to zero. In fact, if you took the gondola all the way up, this is a continuous gondola, so you don't have to wait for a cable car to turn up.
And is it possible? You don't have to book these, do you?
Don't. You just get on. You pay and get on.
And they run pretty much.
They run continuously. Day. Yeah. And they have a period usually between about 8 and about 6.
Okay, so during the walking day.
Yeah.
And do they run all through the season?
All through the season, yeah.
Yeah, so pretty reliable and easy, and often a great way of shortening the day or taking the ascent.
Yeah.
And they can take you up to places like this. And I can see the cable car station on the right here of this mountain hut, but this is pretty dramatic. Where is this?
Yeah, so this is Lagozai, which is the highest point on the trek, which is about 2,800 meters. The peak just to the left of that, you can see. And so you would take the cable car up from the Col de Falzarago up to the cable car station, which is on the right, and then you can have a Jaeger tea or something like that.
What is a Jaeger tea?
Jaeger tea, that's a hunter's tea with spirit.
Oh my goodness.
In the little hut there, and or a soup or a wurst or something like that. Hopefully you wouldn't be wurst for wear after Jaeger tea.
This is a sausage, just for those of you.
That's right. And then you can start your walk.
This is the interior of a typical mountain hut. They're not basic structures anymore. They're a little bit more sophisticated, although not that sophisticated because of the location. But generally warm and welcoming and open all day, a lot of them, so you can pop in and get a drink or snacks, something to eat. I love popping into mountain huts. They're always so characterful. They tell you so much about the area. And great places to meet fellow walkers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mountain huts, highly recommended. And I think we're now going to look at getting around by bus. So...
Okay.
Tell us about this, John.
Yeah, so for some of the walks, you will need to take a bus, at least not so much on the Chestnut Trail, but on the 5 and 8 day trips. You need to be aware that there are buses you need to take to get to the start point of the walk, and they'll be pointed out onto the app.
Yeah, we provide that information for you. We tell you which ones to get.
And you can pay on the bus, usually with a card. And often, so this is a Cortina bus station, you can buy a ticket if you want to at the little hut at the bus station, so that's possible as well.
And one thing to mention is when you get on the bus, make sure that you know exactly where to get off. And it's not always obvious, so keep your wits about you and ask the driver. Make sure the driver knows where you want to get off. Finding your way around on foot, a bit more simple. We literally give you an app, you open it up on your phone, your route is plotted, all you have to do is follow the blue dot. There are little markers along the way, as you can see here, where John and I, will have input information to tell you where to stop for lunch, or where's a great viewpoint, where you can go to the loo, all kinds of stuff like that. Really easy to use, and if you don't want to be looking at your phone all the time, then you can just switch the sound on and stick it in your pocket, and it will literally tell you to turn left and turn right. So it makes navigation, particularly in difficult conditions, straightforward.
You still do need to have to concentrate on, because quite often paths do bifurcate and then come back.
If you're in your thoughts or the views, you can get a bit carried away. But that is not what has happened to these people who have made it up to this col. Looks very, again, wild, beautiful, rocky, dramatic. But let's just have a little chat about what these guys who are our customers are wearing. Quite interestingly, they've nearly all got poles, which I think is probably a good thing, as we've discussed, for walking on the little rocky paths, and great for taking the strain out of your knees, particularly on descents, and helping you go up steep terrain. They've all got sun hats, because
the sun is very strong, even when it's quite cloudy. It can be quite strong as well.
Surrounded by that rock as well, with
very
the
reflective.
So the sun can be quite strong here. This looks like it was a summer's day. They're wearing shorts and t-shirts. So the weather generally quite good, but as in all mountains, it can change.
So you need to carry good waterproofs and cold weather gear and warm weather gear really all the time, and have good ankle support on your boot as well.
And when we run the trips from June pretty much through to September, apart from the two Dolomites trips from Cortina, which we don't run from mid-July until mid-August, because that is Italian holiday time, and it's really hard to get accommodation, very, very busy. So if you wanted to travel at that time, then the Chestnut Trail would be a good option for you. And let's have another look at some more pictures. What is going on here?
So quite often, especially in the autumn, they have Battle of the Bands in some of the villages, and these bands were practicing here at Alpe d'Huez, which is the highest pasture, the largest high-level mountain pasture in Europe. And people are just drinking around, as you can't really see them, but they're sitting around tables drinking, listening to the bands. So
And this kind of umpire music is quite Austrian, I would say, in terms of character. And you can see the guys have got the little Tyrolean style hats on. So it's a good example, I think, of that kind of cross-cultural feeling that you get in this part of Italy, that kind of Austrian Germanic influence. If we look at some more scenery here now, where's this?
So this is on the Chestnut Trail, and this is the sort of western bastion of the Dolomites called the Langkoffel, and just very nice sort of shady sort of alpine area with great views across the rocks.
So I suppose that the Chestnut Trail, you're kind of looking at it. So that's quite a nice thing to do, actually. There's a wonderful experience, or it is a wonderful experience to be in the mountains, but sometimes looking at them can be, I think, when
your view's not foreshortened, like in this case, you can get
it's very lovely.
Great scope.
And then, of course, you get these very nice villages. This looks pretty lovely.
So this is the Abbey at Novicello, and since medieval times, they've been producing a lot of wine. This is actually where the Chestnut Trail officially starts, from the gate of the Abbey. And you can have a glass of the locally produced wine to send you off.
Is the wine nice?
Very nice indeed, Only had a small glass.
White or red?
I had the red. It's lovely.
Okay, it sounds great. Of course, wine, very traditional, as well as the alpine food. And this looks like lovely walking, I have to say. I'd like to do this.
So that's on the Chestnut Trail, it's like a high balcony route. very good trail, not too rough. There's some steep bits on it, but you get these great views. And you don't have to look at your feet where you're going all the time, which is good.
Not like that, the high Dolomites. Yes. So I guess that another difference between the trips is that the chestnut trails possibly some of the time easier underfoot.
It's easier underfoot generally. Yeah. And then this is a view from the hotels, again towards the Lankoff area, and just beautiful church vistas and sunsets and stuff. The mountains really have a good alpine glow most days.
That's beautiful, seeing the lights on the rock. This is interesting. Why are you showing us a picture of a cave?
So this would, in the First World War, this was a border area, kind of like a fortress. You can just see some fortifications there, as well as the hole, which is a machine gun nest, I would imagine. The Austrians were generally up on the top here, shooting down at the Italians, who were trying to often try and blast them out. And in fact, quite a few of the tops of the mountains in this area had been shaped by them blasting out mines.
Wow.
So they're not all natural formations, some have been blasted to bits.
But this was a border area of contention in the First and Second World Wars.
But in the First World War.
And the First World War was when they started creating or fixing the via ferrata, the iron ways to the cliffs, the cables that people now sometimes go to clip into and use to climb. And that was for lookouts, I guess.
But they had some areas here where they're high on the mountains. Then in the Second World War, or between the wars, Mussolini sort of increased the levels of on via ferratas for training his alpine troops, basically.
Wow.
So they're still there in various states of condition.
Yes. So interesting from that perspective. And here, I think on our next slide, we have the very beautiful Edelweiss, which means white star, beautiful flower. Often hard to find, I think.
I think near the trails, a lot of it's been picked these days, but you can find it out more if you go off the trail slightly and have a look around. You can usually find it.
And it is a beautiful symbol of the Alps and the Dolomites. I think it feels like when you go to that part of the world, you see little pictures of Edelweiss everywhere, and they're just such lovely flowers. I think our next picture is the forest.
So extensive forest, pine forests and stuff, and you might see a bit of wildlife, some deer. There's things like woodpeckers, black woodpeckers you'd see, and crossbills birds and things. And then you've got the old railway line which ran to Dobbiaco, and you use that to walk back from one of the walks back into Cortina.
It looks very pleasant. And then I think we've got another contrasting image. So this is the Trecina. This is the highlight of the 8-day trip. Very famous, photographed often from many different angles, the Three Chimneys or the Dreisinnen in German. Looks very dramatic. And can you get up close to it like this?
And get like that. I mean, lots of the via ferratas go right up the rock, but we don't do that. We walk around the edge like this guy's doing there, and often over the cols, like the Col de Passporta, which was one of the international boundaries at one point.
Wow. And again, you can see those beautiful colours in the rock. And of course, the Trecima are close to
Cortina. Cortina is a very boutique kind of town, very upmarket place. Great shops if you've got a bit of money, great restaurants and bars and wine bars.
And I guess it's kind of like the capital of the Dolomites, if you like.
It's quite a busy place, and lots going on, especially now with the Olympics.
It's about to get busier. We were just going to chat about that. So literally today, this week, the Winter Olympics begin in Cortina. And if you are interested in going to the Dolomites, we would strongly recommend tuning in to watch on your TV or YouTube or whatever to see some of the events, because they will give you a really great insight into what the area looks like. And I'm sure there'll be lots of coverage as well about the area generally. Very exciting. I love the Winter Olympics. I'm a big fan of all the big, the downhill skiing, the biathlon, the cross-country skiing. I love watching it all. And of course, it looks quite different in the winter than it would do in the summer, but still great way to sort of see the area. And we're very excited about the Olympics being there. And when you were there last year, John told us that there was lots and lots of development going on in and around Cortina for the Olympics. So we're hoping that in future that means better infrastructure still for tourists. Yeah, I'm sure it will be. So very exciting. So it's all wonderful. We think you should go. It's fabulous. But how do you get there? Yeah. So how do you get to Cortina?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that question as well. So most people for the trip, the 5 and 8 day trip, they would generally fly into Venice and then take the Cortina Express bus. There's about 4 a day during the summer, which goes directly to Cortina in about 2.5 hours or so. And that's the easiest way. So you can also take a train and local bus up there as well.
Yeah, so pretty straightforward. And low cost? Or?
And fairly low cost, around 16, 20 euros, depends on the...
All right, very reasonable. Yeah. And then if you wanted to go and do the Chestnut Trail, how would you get there?
Yeah, most people would fly into Verona. It has quite good connections these days, and they're expanding the airport as well. And then you basically go to the train station and get the train up to Bresson and on to... from there via Bolzano, and you can also go to Bolzano and get a bus up if there's any problems with that.
So Venice, Verona, flights into those airports, but I guess you could even fly into other northern Italian cities like Milan and Turin.
Yeah, Milan, a bit further on, and of course, you can.
You could fly to Innsbruck in Austria as well.
Innsbruck has some connections, but it can take longer. Yeah.
So there are lots and lots of different ways to get there, but the important thing to know is it's not difficult. It's quite straightforward, and we will help with advice. Yeah. Which is why you should travel with us, because we are experts. You've heard John's experience and knowledge of the area, and I think that this is a part of Europe that we at Walkers Britain and Europe do very well. We don't have lots and lots of tours because we've chosen the best ones and the ones that we know work with our great local contacts, and we've been running them for a long time. The tours keep getting refined as well as things change. We look at them regularly, and in fact the 5 and 8 day were both tweaked to improve them last year. I think another sort of really positive thing about our tours in the Dolomites is the accommodation standards. We've chosen really nice hotels. Some of them are 4-star. As we discussed, with saunas, great facilities. We've picked what we think are the best walks, or what John has.
Yeah, some of the best walks we can think of there. And
yes, and try to connect them together.
There are plenty of others, but that's probably others.
We could keep you walking in the Dolomites for months, but we've tried to pick the best ones that we could fit into short time periods for people to choose. And because we are a small team with our local knowledge and contacts, we can also be very flexible. And if you wanted to extend your stay, we can help you do that. Lots and lots of great information that John and I put into the app. So lots of information, not just about the route there. The app also tells you all kinds of things about what to expect, how to plan your day, how to get the bus, how to get the cable car. So quite comprehensive information. Of course, we transfer your luggage whilst you hike, and we are here if there is a problem 24 hours a day. So you just need to show up and walk. And I think that is
more or less it.
More or less it. That's what we've got to say. And we're very happy now to take any questions, which I think Elsie is going to field.
Thank you both. Very interesting. We learned a lot about the area. We have a few questions that came in, and one is from Kate, and she's asking, what if I cannot walk for a day? What escape options do I have, or what options in general do I have?
Okay, so you can, for example, if you're moving on that day, you can normally travel with your luggage, or there may be public transport if you want to spend more time in the village you're in. Some, for example, the 8-day trip, you've got 2 nights in one place, so you could have just a day around the place if you wanted to. Okay. And other places, like on Chestnut Trail, you should be able to get public transport to the next option if you want to do that. Next night if you want to do that. So there are
options. And we explain this in the app. Generally, most days we'll say if for any reason the weather's bad today, or you want to take an alternative, we'll usually explain how to do that.
So some of the walks are quite hard to escape from in terms of public transport because you're in the high mountains. But other places you can, say, reduce them with the cable cars. But the cable car system is not extensive. It's just a few of them in the area.
Okay, that's good. Cheryl's asking if you can do the trip or any of the trips solo.
Yes, you can do all the walks you can do solo. There is unfortunately a solo single supplement, which reflects the price of the hotel rooms that they charge. Yeah.
And I would just say, as a woman on her own, I would happily walk in this area by myself. There are lots of people around. Obviously, if you're walking by yourself, it's usually a good idea to say where you're going when you leave in the morning. And if you decide to delay your arrival to your hotel, give them a ring and let them know so they're not worried about you. But I would be perfectly happy by myself. I think, it's sufficient. It's not so remote that you would be completely out of every contact, and lots of mountain huts.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Odile is asking, we were mentioning a ridge on the 8-day trip, and they're asking if it's vertiginous. I'm not.
Oh no, the ridge is very broad. It's extremely broad, and it just has fantastic views from the top of it. So basically, the ridge has various little cable car systems on it, and there's like a pub at each of the places where the cable cars cross or the footpaths come up. So it's just a very casual. Once you've ascended to the top of the ridge, it's a gradual undulating walk along, winding, and then before you get to the last cable car gondola where you can drop down to Corvara, or you can walk extremely steeply down to Corvara at the end.
Is altitude a factor on any of the walks?
Not really. So if you go up to Laguzai, which is an option, if you, for example, you took the cable car up on your first day on the 8-day trip, you're going up to 2,800 meters, around that sort of height. It's not really a place that kind of altitude. Altitude is a problem. And if you're doing the Chestnut Trail, the highest point is the Alpe d'Huez, which is 1,700 meters, which again is not not particularly high. Yeah.
Laura is asking how many miles the walks are.
Oh, in miles, right? So it does depend. They vary a bit. So generally on the Chestnut Trail, they're slightly longer days in terms of distance. So you're talking about maybe around about 16, 17 kilometers. On the 5 and 8-day trips, they vary between around about 8 and about 14, 15 kilometers, something like that.
So that's probably about between 7 and 10 miles.
Yeah.
In some ways is not great, but the ascent and descent, particularly on the Cortina trips, makes it much more arduous.
Makes it hard, yeah. So, for example, when you're climbing up Zimen area, there's quite a long ascent into the mountains, and then you wind around Zimen, and then you basically end up at the mountain hut where you get driven out. So there's a big ascent. So some of the ascents take a lot of time, which the trip may look like it's a short walk, but the ascent might be 1,000 meters or 800 meters. It's possible. Yeah.
So Kimberly, a little bit related to this, is asking if the 8 and the 5-day trips are right into the high mountains versus the Chestnut Trail, which seems to be along the mountain. So
you're in the heart of the massifs there. Yeah.
Whereas the Chestnut Trail kind of like skirts around the edge to some degree, so you get the views into the mountains, but without that high mountain feel.
Yeah, great, thank you. Joanne is asking if it's getting very hot in the summer.
Yeah, it can be very warm in the summer. You've got to have enough water. You've got to be protected against the sun, so it can be really warm. Yeah.
Even at the higher altitudes.
Even at high altitudes.
What sort of temperatures might you?
So you could be talking about 30s in the valley. It's possible, and then obviously you lose about a degree of every 300 meters. So up on the tops, it could be sort of more manageable temperature.
About 18 or 20 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good. Someone is asking if it's possible to combine the 8-day trip with the Chestnut Walk for a 2-week stay. And we've been talking about this in the office.
Yeah, I mean, you could do. I mean, you just basically have to get across to Bolzano. That's basically what you have to do. So you can get a train back from out of the area. Join the
Cortina.
rail net. Well, Cortina's not on the rail network, but you could take the bus down to Kalazov and get the train out of the area,
so
and then connect up with Bolzano. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's good. We have someone also asking about guided options. and that is available. But if they're not interested in hiking alone, if we offer group trips,
we don't have them on those. Not on those free walks.
Not currently.
Not on those exact routes, but we do have them. We do have some guided options that skirt around Cortina and into the Trecima. There are guided options available.
Okay.
Yeah, not on the exact
not on
trips that we the exact itineraries. Someone is asking that the walks are indeed self-guided and if transfers are independent. So I think they would like to have a bit more information on the transfers, how that works. I mean,
some of the transfers are included.
Yes. Okay. So it varies from the day to day. Basically, when you take the bus, that's an independent transfer for you. You're not traveling with your baggage. When you're taking the bus up to start the walk, for example, the Laguzai walk. But other places, for example, if you've done the Trecima walk and you get a taxi at the end taking you back to Cortina, that's obviously included.
Yeah.
And also the taxi from Araba back into Cortina is included.
Yeah.
On the Chestnut Trail, you are given towards the end of the walk, there's a card, you get given a transfer card, and you can take the local railway and local cable car down to Bolzano, and that's included. But if you go up to Susi for the last walk, which is a kind of an optional thing, although the bus is included under this card, the cable car up to the Alps, there is a private one, and you have to pay locally for that.
So generally it depends. Usually what we do, if there is a great local bus service that's low cost and that will take you to the start and end of the walks, generally we will suggest you take that. And of course we can't pre-book that, so that's why it's not included. But when it gets more complicated and there's no bus and we have to transfer you, sometimes that's included. And we'll explain all of that on our website and in the tour information. So it's clear before you book, you know what you are looking for if you look at the included and not included on the web page for the tour.
Thank you for that. There's a few questions about guided versus self-guided. So maybe it's good to explain a little bit more how our self-guided trips work and how the app works.
Okay, so self-guided walk, you basically choose when you leave, obviously after breakfast, most cases, because you want to enjoy a good breakfast. Then you need to decide whether you want to go into the village or ask at the accommodation for a packed lunch. And then you just head out.
Using the app to navigate.
Using the app to navigate. If you have to take a local bus, then that will tell you where you get the bus from and what the bus timetable is, or the link to the bus timetable. And then you basically start walking from wherever you start. You can go as fast or as slow as you like, obviously, within reason to get in hopefully by about 6 o'clock. If you're running late, you ought to ring your accommodation to let you know you're running late. And then you just enjoy the day, basically.
It's more autonomous.
Yeah, it's more autonomous.
So self-guided, you can kind of, you can take your time, stop and look at things you want to look at by yourself. As we've explained, you've got the app to help you navigate. Yeah, you've got more control, I think, in some ways. Yeah. But I suppose what you don't have, particularly if you're traveling solo, is the sociability of being with a group.
Yeah, you probably meet a lot of people to talk to on the way if you want to, but you don't, as you say.
Yeah, you don't have that social experience. Yeah. And of course, if you're with a guided group, you don't have to worry about the route finding. You just follow the guide or you follow John, and so they're quite different experiences. I think very often the guided trips that we run, there'll be set departure dates. So you've got to travel on those dates. Whereas if you want to travel self-guided, you can pretty much pick when you want to travel. So there are different pros and cons for guided and self-guided. And I think only you know yourself which experience you would prefer.
Thank you. And then about the app, can you explain a little bit more about that? Because Lisa's asking if it works without cell coverage, how it works with GPX files, about Wi-Fi in the locations.
Okay, so The app works through the satellite connection in your phone. So once we've sent a link to you to the app and your booking and your tour information, you basically click it and you install the app on your phone and then download all the routes. You don't need to worry about messing around with GPX files. They're there, obvious. You press a button, day one, route, download to phone. Once the routes are downloaded on your phone, you do not need to be connected to Wi-Fi or cell coverage to be able to navigate. They are just there, and the phone uses the satellite GPS functionality within it. So you can literally switch your phone off and just still use the app. It's very, very simple. The app's got lots of written information in it as well, and some of that you can put onto audio, so you can play it and listen to it. Or you can read it. It's usually a good idea to sort of flick the app open the night before for the following day and just have a read through the information, so you know what we suggest about where to get lunch, maybe what time you need to set off, and certainly where you need to get the bus from or where you pick up your transfer. It's quite intuitive. We found that most people using it for the first time, once we've explained how to use it, have no problems. And we've really noticed that people, once they start using it, really love it, because there really is no possibility to get lost.
It's basically, you can use it in flight mode so that you can save your battery. You can't use it backwards though.
No, it doesn't work backwards. You have to follow the routes in the way that we have set them out for you. It's not like a tool that you can use to navigate. The routes are there for you to follow in the way that we have written them. And I think most people find it pretty easy to use.
But it's been very positive. The
feedback's been really positive.
We always say carry a portable battery pack with you so you can recharge just in case your phone runs out of juice.
But I'm just old-fashioned. I like to have a map as well. You know, I would normally, it's always easier to buy a map sometimes in the place. So if you are going to Cortina, you will be absolutely able to buy all the maps of the Dolomites and books that you want. I like to have a map just because I like looking at them when I stop and have my lunch, so I can look at all the mountains. And I'm just, I just like that.
Yeah, and for the app, your phone does not necessarily require a certain version or lots of memory. It's quite efficient.
No, it's quite efficient.
Yeah, you need a bit of memory to download that. Yeah, I don't know what the amount you need.
But it works on iPhone and Android. There are different apps for both.
If you've got an old phone, it might. If it's a very old phone, it might not be able to. I don't know if it works.
Yeah, we've not had many problems with that.
We haven't, no.
No, not at all. A little bit more information, I think, is what people would like on how the self-guided trips works in terms of accommodation, hotels versus lodges, and luggage transfers, how that works.
So, well, there's no. You mean lunches or lodges? House?
Lodges. Sorry, lodges.
There's no lodges on the trip, so they're all pretty nice hotels. The baggage transfers, the days you actually move on, you'll be prompted on your app when you're moving on anyway. You just have to make sure your bag is labeled. It should be under 20 kilos, and you shouldn't have anything tied to it, like extra pairs of wet socks or something like that, because that could go adrift. Most of them are moved around by taxis. So usually it's night, sort of, you've got to have your bag ready by 9, and normally it's at your accommodation by 4 o'clock, around that time.
Yeah, and if you just ask at the hotel reception, I'm moving on today, where do I leave my bag? They'll normally tell you a safe place to leave it, and the baggage transfer guys will pick it up and move it on for you. I mean, we pre-book all of this in advance. So when we get your booking, we make the accommodation bookings, we book the bag transfers and the human transfers if needed. So you just turn up and it's all there. The information's in the app. We'll send you some information by email as well about the trip. And you've got all the information at your fingertips to help you just find your way. Everything's arranged for you, though. You don't really need to do anything other than just walk.
Yeah, and on the walk, you just bring your day pack with your water,
your
lunch, your spare battery.
Yeah, and bring it, of course, your passport and money and cards and things like that. Make sure you have a waterproof little sack inside your day pack, so you can put everything in there.
Particularly your phone. Yes.
Yeah. One last question, I think, for the moment. Whether there is a maximum number of pieces for luggage for the transfer.
So it's one 20-kilo bag per person.
Yeah.
One bag included. Even it's not like a maximum weight of 20 kilo divided over different bags. Each person.
It's
one bag.
It's one bag. Yeah.
And that's because the baggage companies have to make sure that they've got sufficient space to take all the bags that they're carrying. Sometimes they're carrying other people's bags, not just ours or yours. Also, actual humans have to carry the bags in and out of vans, up steps, and they need to be a manageable weight. It's not like an airport where you can sling it on the conveyor belt. Actual humans often have to walk up hills and steps, and we want to keep their backs safe.
So normally the bags won't be placed in your room. Sometimes depending on the place they might be, but generally they'll be at reception or kept in a stall by reception for you to pick up when you arrive.
Yeah, I mean, I always think it's a great idea to travel with a bag you can pick up yourself. And a lot of the smaller hotels, they will always have a lift, an elevator. So you need to make sure that you can get your bag up the stairs if need be. I mean, I always travel these days with wheels, but also with a bag that I can pick up, so that when I'm carrying it to my room, I can get it up the stairs if I need to.
That's good. And if people are traveling with more luggage, usually they can leave it in the first hotel, because especially with the 5 and the 8 day trips.
If for the Cortina-based trips, that's really easy to do because you're returning to where you began.
Yeah, exactly. One last question from Karen. What is the best trip if I'm a first-time walker?
Yeah, so that'd be Chestnut Trail, definitely, because it's kind of easier, and it's easier foot placements, and there's less chance of you tripping up or having really bad mountain weather, in the sense that really cold weather. So if you're not experienced with mountains, it's a good walk.
Place to start.
It's a good walk to start.
Less strong ascent and descent.
It has some very steep descents, but less arduous.
It's point to point. Which is always nice. Like to take yourself on a journey, I think, is a really nice thing to do if you've never done a hiking trip like this before.